My father had multiple women at once and never truly practiced loyalty/monogamy beyond which wife he stole from versus which one he fed. What my father never knew is that I knew. And that was the strange part. The weird ways I have run into so much information about my dad and always chose to love him, protect him, and hold out hope somehow he would see I was worthy of his love. What could I say? I would have been a better daughter, but he made me an enemy. I was enwrapped by a false concept of what it is to be the good daughter of the devil. As we went through stores, always looking for gifts, now I wonder which ones went to the wives or the mistresses, because none went to me. My mother unfortunately repeated a dark pattern my grandmother had, not realizing that becoming the great love of a sleaze bag meant you probably ended up like Henry VIII's wives. The day she left him was the day he declared war on her. My father spent his entire existence depleting my mother of her finances, her energy, and even her will because she did not fight for him. But what I did not understand about his psyche was that he had other women. He even cheated on her. There was not one point in his life that he did not have a mistress, except for when he was in the hospital, because, even sycophants get sick. Having a father that was a coked out whore is weird when he was also a lawyer. I do not call my father a slut to demean him, because the truth is, promiscuity is nothing. Having an active sex life is fine. Just don't have it with multiple wives and women at once and think if you do not tell them and occasionally get tested, all is fine. The tragedy of my father was that he fooled himself into believing that his two greatest roles, victim and lawyer, erased and masked his greatest ones: abuser, addict, hoe, con man, fiend, liar, and enjoyer of all of them. In his head, the title of public angel masked the private demon he actually was, and at times that is my resentment. I was never loved by that man, nor were any of his other children, wives, or mistresses. We were all masked to his personal need to cover his sins, even from himself. But the tragedy of a woman is to convince herself that she can walk away from that truth without leaving a little bit of herself behind. In my father's mind, his main wife, whom he would call the beast, was his biggest mask. He would buy her the world, while the other wives, if they behaved, could get their slice. How many he married is still a mystery to me, but I know the few he convinced him. He convinced to feel like they were married to him. Hmm. How was this man able to convince so many that they were his world while he so blatantly crushed it? This was my murder mystery, or rather, the murder mystery of a lawful hoe. All right, let's discuss. Let's heal. I don't know what's going on because I'm getting luckier and luckier by the minute. I don't know what happened. But surprise everyone, my dad has cheated with more than just my mom. And I have found a few names. I don't know. I really feel like sometimes, and I say this because we have entered an existential crisis. But it's not really an existential crisis. It's really an awakening. I think for a lot of women today, my dad won, aka my dad is Donald Trump. Trust me. And I've been with that man before. I may not be like him, but I know how he what he's like. And the thing about men like Donald Trump is that they love no one. And that is in some ways why they are able to thrive and crush people in his head, because he has so much anxiety, so much paranoia. He will always be the victim. He is just a man who has to protect himself. Himself. He's not a sinner. He's not a criminal. He's not a manipulator, a liar, an addict, all the things you could call him. He's a man protecting himself. And if you don't see that, you're the villain. And the problem is people don't see that because it's kind of like I always say the devil didn't fall because he wanted to be God. He fell because he wanted to be called it. My father didn't want to become a better human being. He wanted to be called a better human being. And he used women in particular as this way to feed and mask things that were really killing him, like his addiction, like his depression, like his paranoia, like his anxiety, like his thievery. I mean, my God, that man stole. And I recently ran into um, some shocking information about my dad, particularly in terms of another woman, a few others actually, but there's one who's the main one of the main ones. And it was surprising and relieving because what was so interesting about my dad is he kind of convinced himself that he just really had two wives, my mother and his other wife. And that, his love story was just being torn between these two women, the one he didn't love but that he paid for, and the one he did love but he didn't pay for. She paid for him. And it was always something in my mind that made me feel, I have a feeling that I have siblings that I that my father didn't account for, that he didn't, either he didn't know that he has more children, or he did and he just silenced that because we're just the ones that got discovered. And I've been searching, and I'm going to cry finding out just how big of a slut my dad was. Is this oddly moving, freeing thing. And that's how I have felt right now in this post election. I feel so free and sad. I feel tragically liberated because I think I believed my father's story. I believed the story of a guy who was the brokest man to always have a new car. The addict suffering from a disease, even when he was sober, you know? Even when he was sober, he was still crying about his addiction and how it blurred him, even when he was acting clearly. But the truth is, he was an evil man. And he broke a lot of women's hearts. I thought it was just my sister and me. And I know eventually it will be his granddaughters that will be heartbroken. Because what is in the dark comes to light. And that's what happened with this election. We saw the lie. Men don't love us. Men don't care about us. Men still do see women as property. Men do see women as the emotional and psychological support system and cover up for their demons, for their greed, for their monetary desires. That's why we don't get equal pay. They still want to be the richest. And they're competing against each other to be rich. They don't need more comps. And finding my father's other mistress really, oh, we'll get into that in a future episode, has been it's been surprising. It's been surprising because it's like it all happened in this last week or so. Just suddenly a pile of info landing. And I started researching my dad for healing because you have to know the person who made you feel like you couldn't know yourself. And I have in the past struggled with love. I mean, that's the whole point of daddy recovery, right? How the father who didn't love you frames how you love unlovable men, undeserving men. And my God, I can't believe the harm my dad caused, the harm that women he enter their lives, enter their bodies, enter their minds. all because he supposedly had mommy issues, all because he was an alcoholic and a cokehead, all because he was a lawyer, all because he was a victim. Always had excuses. And I think finding these other women kind of woke me up to how misogynistic my dad was. Because that's the thing about daddy recovery. You you're so convinced by men, or really by hate, that it's not hate. Hate didn't win yesterday. It was people that are focused on the economy. What? What? You don't even know what a tariff is, sir. What are you talking about? A man who's gone more bankrupt than any other human being on this earth. What are you talking about? These men, these hateful villains, because I want to also, hate comes in any form. It really does, in the same way love does. And so that's why I got to be fair. What fascinates me is that they're just trying to convince themselves that their demons are angels because they love their demons. Trump won because we all hate each other. We all are we want to be loved while being hateful. We want peace while wanting somebody else to be in war. We want somebody to heal us while praying someone else is hurt. And it's really hard to be virtuous. It's really hard to be love. And Daddy Recovery is sending me that because there are moments when I am so ready to destroy my dad for all the destruction. And all I have to do is say the truth. All I have to do, like now, he had mistresses. That's all I said. And it's true. If all I have to do is say the truth to ruin somebody, then damn, what lies have they told? Mr. H. And that's what I think happened with this election. Like a lawful hoe, the veil has been lifted, and we have seen that there are people who are completely willing to ruin their own economy, their own health, this earth, just to make sure it's ruined for someone else. And their anger only rises when someone says, "You're not that good." When somebody unmasks, unveils. Because I mean, to laugh when people cry, to laugh when people lose their human rights, to laugh, to yell, to scream. Whose side do you think you're on? It's not good. It's not love. It's not God. You're so fear based. You're so fear based. And you have convinced yourself that your fear is love because you can't heal it. You don't want to. You don't need to. You don't feel like it. And some don't even know how, which I hold compassion for because I don't even know how to heal sometimes. But there are moments like this, like finding my dad's mistresses that make me feel healed. Not because of the information, but the liberation of that's another story that my father was so convincing at telling that I felt endangered at questioning. I felt unsafe to question that story of he was just so madly in love with my mom. He had to marry her while being married to someone else. And he had to get them both pregnant and really assumed there wasn't a third, that eventually there wouldn't be a fourth and a fifth, that somehow he learned his lesson and just kept it in the pants. He was an addict all the way, through and through, a consumer, a taker, ungenerous unless it benefited him. And he thought he convinced me because I wanted to believe the story, because what he didn't see was he was my father. He was my father. He didn't care. He didn't care about the role. He didn't care that he was going to be my only experience of a dad. And that's the thing with Donald Trump. He doesn't care that he's a president. He doesn't care that for 4 years he's going to be our experience of a president. He's just there for what he needs to get, for what he wants. And he doesn't mind destroying to get it. But then the truth comes out. Information is handed. Luck and light match to help the ones that he thought were crushed. And that's what I find so fascinating about this moment. I see a lot of people grieving when they should be motivated. I see a lot of people fearing that they've been chained when they've been liberated. You don't have to believe anymore that men love you, that race, gender, class, nobody judges you for that. Of course they do. It's people, it's dog eat dog. People want to be rich. People want to be gods. And they will use any excuse, any title, like lawyer or victim, to excuse why they will crush you to the point where you can't even claim you are human. I can't believe how many people he mistreated. And that goes for Trump and my dad, Mr. H. I just can't believe it. And women, my God, women are grieving. I knew men hated us. And I know not all men, but always a man, right? And my God, there have been men celebrating. We own your bodies. Yeah, but you don't own my mind. You don't own my heart. You don't own my soul. And you don't even own yours. So don't even think twice. That's one thing my dad taught me. He owned women materially, but he couldn't own them spiritually. And that's what frustrated him. He thought he owned me and my mom. But now I see God is on my side. And I feel so free knowing that. I feel so free knowing God is on my side, that healing is on my side. But the worst he has done to me is just lift the illusions of him. And I love my luck. I love my luck. I love my information. I love my freedom. I love my strength. And to all the women out there, I hope that my infectious positivity just grows within you. I know you're crying. I know you're sad because Mr. H won today. Mr. Hate won, but love wins tomorrow. Love wins tomorrow. We won in the oddest way. So thank you, Mr. H. Thank you for being who you are and never seeing it. It just makes the revelation even more fun. Subscribe.